My name is Claire Bennett, and I'm 36 years old. 3 hours after my 8-year-old daughter survived open-heart surgery, I sent one photograph to my family group chat. She was asleep beneath a thin blue hospital blanket, her tiny chest wrapped in white bandages, her favorite stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. I wrote only 7 words. She wants to see everyone when she's awake. My phone stayed silent for almost 15 minutes before my mother finally answered. Her message wasn't long. It simply said, "She's not our problem anymore." I stared at those 6 words until the screen dimmed. By the time that day ended, I had closed a door I'd spent 20 years trying to keep open. If stories about quiet strength, family, and finding peace speak to you, I'd love for you to subscribe to Quiet Justice. Now let me tell you exactly what happened. My daughter, Lily, had been born with a congenital heart defect called tetralogy of Fallot. We'd known since before she entered the world that one day she'd need major surgery. Doctors monitored her every few months at Children's Medical Center in Dallas. Her appointments became part of our calendar the way birthdays are for other families. She was the kind of little girl who apologized when nurses had to draw blood because she worried they might feel bad about hurting her. She collected smooth rocks from every park we visited and kept them in a faded blue backpack. The backpack followed us everywhere. She called it her lucky backpack because she'd carried it into every appointment since kindergarten. The night before surgery, she unzipped it and handed me a folded drawing. "If I get scared," she whispered, "look at this." It was a picture she'd made with crayons. Just the 2 of us holding hands beneath an enormous yellow sun. I slipped it into the front pocket without saying much because my voice wasn't cooperating. Lily's father had died in a construction accident when she was 3. Since then, it had always been the 2 of us. My family lived only 40 minutes away. Sometimes they acted like they lived in another country. Growing up, my younger brother Ethan was always the center of attention. His baseball games mattered more than my debate tournaments. His college graduation became a week-long celebration. When I finished nursing school, Mom mailed me a congratulations card 3 weeks late. After Lily was born, things became even more uneven. Every conversation somehow circled back to Ethan's life. His promotions. His vacations. His new truck. His golden retriever. If Lily had another cardiology appointment, Mom usually responded with, "I'm sure she'll be fine." I learned to stop asking. Still, hope has strange habits. Whenever something truly important happened, part of me believed this time would be different. The surgery lasted almost 7 hours. Every minute felt measured in heartbeats instead of seconds. When Dr. Ramirez finally walked into the waiting room with his surgical cap still on, he smiled before speaking. "She's going to be okay." Those 5 words carried more weight than anything I'd ever heard. Later that afternoon, Lily opened her eyes for a few seconds. "Did Bunny stay?" I showed her the stuffed rabbit. She smiled weakly before drifting back to sleep. A nurse suggested taking one picture while she rested. "Parents usually appreciate having it later," she said. So I did. Not because Lily looked strong. She didn't. She looked exhausted. Fragile. Alive. I sent that picture to our family group chat. No speeches. No guilt. Just hope. Then Mom replied, "She's not our problem anymore." Ethan followed a minute later. "You've handled things this long. Keep doing that." I read both messages twice. Then I locked my phone. The nurse walked in carrying ice chips. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. It wasn't true. But I didn't want to explain something that couldn't really be explained. The next morning, Mom called. Not to ask about Lily. She wanted to know if I'd be attending Ethan's backyard barbecue the following weekend. "I don't think so," I answered. "You can't disappear every time something happens." Something. That was the word she chose. I looked over at Lily sleeping beside me. Her chest rose carefully with each breath. "I think we're done talking for today." She sighed dramatically before hanging up. A few days later, we finally returned home. Neighbors left casseroles on the porch. Parents from Lily's school mailed handmade cards. One elderly man from church slipped a grocery store gift card into our mailbox without signing his name. Kindness arrived from strangers. Silence remained from family. As Lily recovered, I began organizing paperwork into a large white binder. Medical bills, insurance approvals, surgical reports, medication schedules, physical therapy appointments. The binder grew thicker every week. One evening, Lily asked if she could decorate the cover. She covered it with colorful heart stickers. Then she wrote carefully across the front, "Our brave book." From then on, I never called it a medical binder again. It became our brave book. Months passed. Lily slowly regained her energy. She laughed louder, ran farther, started riding her bicycle again. Life felt lighter. Then one afternoon, I received a certified letter. My mother had updated her estate planning documents. She wanted signatures confirming I'd received notice. Nothing unusual, except for one sentence. She had appointed Ethan as medical decision-maker if she ever became incapacitated because, according to the attorney's letter, he had consistently demonstrated exceptional family commitment. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because reality occasionally sounds ridiculous when written on expensive legal paper. The attorney's office had accidentally included a summary of supporting statements submitted during planning meetings. Mom described Ethan as someone who always placed family first. I folded the letter carefully. Then I opened our brave book. Inside were hundreds of pages documenting who had actually shown up during the hardest year of my daughter's life. Names of nurses, therapists, neighbors, teachers, meal trains, volunteer drivers. Every person who had quietly helped. There was no page with Mom's name. None with Ethan's. A few weeks later, Mom called unexpectedly. Her voice sounded smaller than usual. She'd slipped on wet patio steps and fractured her hip. Ethan was traveling overseas for work. She asked if I could drive her to follow-up appointments. I said yes, not because she'd earned it, because that's the kind of person I wanted Lily to become someday. During those appointments, I noticed something. Mom spent long stretches sitting quietly. One afternoon, she pointed toward our brave book resting in my tote bag. "What's that?" I handed it over. She flipped through page after page. Heart stickers, hospital bracelets, appointment cards, Lily's crayon drawing, medication charts, thank you notes. She reached the printed screenshot of her own text message. I had included it, not as revenge, as part of the timeline. She stared at it for nearly a minute. "I actually sent this?" "You did." "I don't remember." "I do." Silence filled the car. Real silence. Not angry silence. The kind that forces people to meet themselves. Several days later, she knocked on my front door carrying a small cardboard box. Inside were old family photographs, school awards, my nursing graduation picture, childhood drawings, things she'd quietly kept for decades. "I don't know when I started treating you like you needed less because you complained less." I didn't answer. She kept talking. "I think I confused independence with not needing love." There wasn't a dramatic apology. No crying. No movie speech. Just an older woman finally saying words she'd delayed too long. "I failed both of you." She looked toward Lily, who was coloring at the kitchen table. "I don't expect forgiveness." Lily glanced up. "Grandma, do you want to color with me?" Children have unusual timing. Mom smiled carefully. "I'd like that." Healing didn't happen that afternoon. It happened slowly. One visit. One honest conversation. One boundary at a time. I never pretended those text messages hadn't happened. Neither did she. Ethan never apologized. He insisted everyone was being too sensitive. His relationship with us stayed distant. That was his choice. Mine was different. I stopped chasing people who repeatedly walked away. Instead, I invested my energy in those who stayed. Today, our brave book sits on a shelf in our living room. The hospital papers matter less now. The heart stickers are peeling. Lily is 11. She plays soccer. She outruns me every Saturday morning. Sometimes she opens the binder just to look at the old crayon drawing. She laughs at how tiny her handwriting used to be. I smile because she barely remembers the surgery. She remembers the rabbit, the nurses, the stickers, the backpack. Children often remember love more clearly than pain. Every now and then I think about that message. She's not our problem anymore. My mother was wrong. Lily was never a problem. She was a child asking for family. There's a difference. One sentence nearly ended our relationship. Another began repairing it. I'm sorry. Simple words. Late words. Necessary words. If you've ever had to choose peace over chasing someone's approval, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if this story meant something to you, please subscribe to Quiet Justice and join me for the next story. Sometimes the strongest families are the ones we build with honesty, patience, and the courage to protect the people who need us most.